Okay, here we are. Welcome to our Spider-Man Far From Home spoilercast. Spoilercast, spoilercast, 4 times spoilercast.
If you have not seen it yet, shut it off now, go watch the film, come back and listen to this, because we are not going to hold anything back.
There are going to be spoilers.
They're going to be spoilers, just so you're fully aware that there will be spoilers.
I can just imagine one person like fumbling with their device, like, oh god, I've got to turn it over. Oh no, quick, no! This should be sufficient time. For
yeah,
you to
I
turn
think
off,
we've done plenty of warnings. One more, there will be spoilers. All right.
My very basic breakdown of this is Act 1 is unwatchable because it's just him and his idiot friends.
There will be somebody out there who likes it. Like, you know, if you're kind of a fan of very light teen dramas, you will probably enjoy Act 1.
In the MCU, okay, now the MCU is like risen above the parapet. All Act 1 is him and his one-dimensional friends just going around Europe, and it's incredibly boring. Seeing these elementals and him meeting Beck, it's incredibly dull, slow-paced, and boring.
That's saying something, considering there are a couple epic fights in Act 1, and it still is very boring. Because the main thing is there are no stakes. They don't establish the stakes at all. I think the thing that I noticed was, like, there's a complete lack of suspense. Never at any moment was I like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? It was just kind of fairly bland, fairly banal.
Do you know what adds to that? The fact that there are 4 of them, and we're told that when we first meet Beck, I've killed 3 of them already.
Yeah.
There's 1 left. This wasn't like a globe-trotting thing where let's go and kill these 4 elementals, and at the end they do the whole Voltron thing that they talked about, and we have to defeat that as well. This one guy, sure, he's got powers up the arse, but...
And, okay, granted, they're all fake, and he didn't actually kill 3 of them, but still.
But at this point, we're thinking, he's killed 3 of them by himself. Okay, this is the one that destroyed his home planet. The fire one, obviously fire is fire, and... You know, people ask the Hound, you know, people hate fire. But that immediately robbed it of any kind of stakes for me, like you said.
And the other thing is, like, of all the superheroes, why ask Spider-Man to go up against this fiery elemental? That was the question I kept thinking. Because we've got the new Captain America, Sam. We have all of Wakanda. We have... the Scarlet Witch. Well, I mean, it is addressed in the last one. People keep asking where the Avengers are, and I don't know what to tell them. And it's like, yeah, like, where the fuck are the Avengers?
Can you just give a very quick opinion on what you thought of Homecoming?
I liked Homecoming.
Well, I mean, is it in your top 10, top 15, roughly?
Oh, I only really know my top 5. It's not in my top 5.
No, it's not in my top 10. I mean, it's not in my bottom 5, but it's somewhere in that kind of uncanny...
It's in a sort of hazy area.
Yeah.
I would rank it as 7 out of 10. I know I liked it more than you did. The kind of dark, serious, real-world aspect of it with the economy and stuff, like, I enjoy that. I was down for that. Probably my favorite version of MJ. I do wish that their, like, relationship wouldn't have started until they were actually adults, because I hate the, like, high school sweethearts trope. I really do. I think Ned could be a really interesting character if they actually let him be the guy in the chair, and in Homecoming he was the guy in the chair, and I liked him in that role. As just Peter's friend, he is kind of boring and not that interesting, and you sort of wonder why they're friends, except, no, I can get it. 2 kind of geeky losers are friends with each other. I mean, who else
this
are they going to be?
This podcast is built on the back of that. Yeah, so for me, Homecoming, I would give it like 5, maybe a little bit more out of 10. I just found it incredibly dull. It was him and his friends for the whole film. I think all the friends are fairly one-dimensional. I don't really enjoy any of them. And this is what Act 1 was. It was just him and the gang doing that exact same thing again, telling exact same jokes, Flash being an obnoxious twat, the teacher being one of life's losers. That's all Act 1 was. Act 2 was where things kind of took my interest, and it was after the bit where they had the drink in the bar. You find out about what was it referred to? Illusion tech.
Yeah.
I think that's what he called. And the illusion tech was in place so that people in the bar were actually friends of Beck, and they're all ex-Stark workers. That's when I thought the film started to get interesting. And when he was using the illusion tech on Peter, I thought that was visually stunning, but...
it's totally unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was my big issue with Far From Home. It would have been salvageable if the tech was actually believable. Visually, yeah, it was amazing to watch, But the entire time I was watching it, I was just thinking, how the fuck is he doing that? How the fuck is he doing that? I don't think that he could actually pull that off.
It reminded me a lot of the Spider-Man game I just played for the PS4 last year. It was as if you were doing a level of that. And you brought up a very good point about the Scarecrow, which I thought would have made it a lot more believable.
Yeah, I mean, like, if Mysterio had been a character like Scarecrow with the hallucinogenic gas that could actually make people see whatever the fuck he wanted, that would have been way more believable than drones projecting illusions that are, like, really, really tangible illusions.
I mean, we get hard-light holograms in things like Red Dwarf, Star Trek, and that's like 25th century technology, 24th century, even maybe 23rd century technology. It's not now, and it was kind of a bit...
Yeah, and I mean, and the holograms in those, I think the earliest is probably 22nd century and up, are not nearly as advanced as this tech is. And, you know, it's believable that 22nd, 24th, 25th centuries, they would get technology up to that point. I mean, we sort of have holograms now, not the best holograms. And I get that, like, superhero things are always a little bit more advanced, a little bit fantastical. But when you aren't able to suspend disbelief, the writers haven't done something right. Or the writers or the directors, depending on who you want to give credit to. But basically, the people telling the story haven't done it right if you aren't able to suspend your disbelief and just go with the rules that they established. But they didn't establish the rules of this universe particularly well, in my opinion, and the tech just wasn't believable. And considering that the entire film centered around this tech being able to project these huge monster type things, it's a massive plot hole in my opinion, and that's what brings Far From Home down for me.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, probably the best part of the film, would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Absolutely loved him. Thought he did it really well. Absolutely believable all the way through. Just wish they'd, like, given him better tools to use in his fight against Spider-Man.
So Act 2 is kind of him hoodwinking Spider-Man into giving him over this Stark tech. And then we come to Act 3, which is where all the drones projecting this elemental, and it just felt, honest to God, like I was watching a Christmas special of Doctor Who with a bunch of Daleks flying through the sky. I found it surprisingly anticlimactic.
It was very anticlimactic. And again, there's a problem with stakes. Mysterio wants to become the next Iron Man, basically, and he's going to do this by stopping an Avenger-level threat. You know, he designs these elementals to kind of be that for him. Then he just has this side task of killing a bunch of children. He wants to kill Peter's friends, because they all know that he's faking. There was never a moment where I thought, oh my god, Spider-Man might not win this battle. I think the closest it came to that was when he got hit by the train, and I was just kind of like, oh shit. But that was kind of more of a shock thing than anything, because 2 seconds later, you know, he's climbing back. I didn't really ever at any point feel like he was in danger of losing the battle. It felt way too easy. I'm also a bit sad that they killed Mysterio. I would have liked to see him come back later or be involved in some other way, because I think Gyllenhaal did a really good job with him, and if they kind of fix these, like, plot hole problems, he could be a really interesting villain. Like
you said, no real stakes, never really felt he was out of his depth in the battle. And again, part of Gyllenhaal's plan is I'm going to kill all these kids, and I really didn't give a shit whether he did or didn't. It's Spider-Man's world, Spider-Man's little corner of the MCU, I just find quite underwhelming. And I don't know, I think maybe if he has like a 5-film arc, and maybe when he's working for the Bugle, and maybe when he's up against kind of bigger threats as an adult, as like the photographer, maybe I'll feel a bit more, but I'm really over him being the school kid Parker. I'm a bit underwhelmed with like the state of the MCU Spider-Verse, if that makes sense at the moment.
I think they're really underutilizing the actors and the characters that they have at this point in time. They've created several interesting characters. We've got Peter himself, MJ. The whole kind of weird relationship between May and Happy is kind of interesting and intriguing. Mysterio is really good, but the story is not there to hold them up. Because, I mean, I will say, like, the acting is great. I have no complaints about the acting, no complaints about the casting. It's just the characterization and the plot are falling short, and that's really, really frustrating. And weirdly, people tend to blame the actors if the script isn't good. Yeah. It's like, it's not their fault.
I fall into that trap all the time, I have to be honest. I think Happy Hogan and Aunt May, it's very endearing. I like the moment with Happy and Peter in the private jet when he was making the suit, when he could see Tony Stark in Peter. Yeah. For that first moment of realisation that, yeah, Tony was onto something here. It was almost like a paternal role, really like that. Of all the kind of school kid friends, Zendaya and MJ is the one I just feel, God, just do something with her. She's so good. fact that she knows his secret now, maybe there's
That
kind
she
of...
figured out his secret, which is like the first time we've had that in a Spider-Man film where the like love interest has actually just preempted him and been like, I'm Spider-Man. That's what you were going to say. I was like, no, I'm not Spider-Man.
And that's such a good point, because she is such a smart, empowered character. And I just feel like they aren't really doing her any justice at the moment with what they're doing with her. Any other comments, or should we move on to post-credits?
Let's go into the post-credits, because, I mean, for me, the post-credits were kind of the highlight of the film. During the film, there were several times that people kind of cheered and clapped. Most notably, you know, as you mentioned, when Happy's in the jet, watching Peter do his Tony Stark thing and building the suit, and then he puts on Back in Black by AC/DC. The entire theater just, like, erupted right then. And then they just completely lost their shit during the first end credits sequence.
I mean, that was something we kind of joked about. We
did,
said
like,
it would be
you know,
insane. They'd never do it in a million years.
Was he like, yeah, because we talked about it. We were like, we want them to do a multiverse thing and bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and wouldn't it be like the most awesome thing in the world if they had J.K. Simmons come in to be Jameson? And we were like, yeah, but that they're never going to do that. It's never going to happen. You know, he was absolutely perfect in the role, but we're never going to see that Jameson again. And then
it's like sometimes people just listen, and it happens so rarely, but once in a blue moon somebody will just say, Kevin Feige will just say, do you know what, they're right, they are absolutely right. Part he was born to play, J.K. Simmons playing Jameson, god damn it, let's just put him back in there. And obviously it does, like you mentioned, it brings up multiverse ideas. Maybe we'll get Tobey Maguire pop up sometime and he'll be like, oh, you've got a Jameson as well, and you know, they'll laugh. And it was so perfect, and the best bit of fan service of the year. I mean, other than maybe Kat picking up the hammer, it was so perfect. And yeah, just once in a while they will listen to us, because sometimes, very rarely,
we know what
we'll have a gem.
I think the two of us know what we're talking about. They should listen to us always. Other fans get kind of caught up in certain things and don't see clearly.
Yeah, I was very confident, I must say, that they were going to do the building as an Oscorp building. Didn't happen. I'm wondering if that's ever going to happen now, to be honest. You know, who knows, maybe that's been kept for the future. Where do you put this film? I mean, does it creep into your top 10? Does it remain in that kind of weird zone?
I think it's kind of in that weird zone.
It's for me as well, yeah.
It's like, it's weird because Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the character, is pretty high up in my favorite MCU characters.
But very strong casting.
But his films are in that, like, weird, undefinable area because they don't deliver on the story. Yeah. And it's really disappointing, because I think he is an incredibly engaging character. He's able to appeal to a wide range of age groups. You know, like we've talked about how some characters are very, like, grown-up characters. Some characters are more fun. Spider-Man is kind of a very kid-friendly sort of character. I would really love to see a good story come around for him.
Yeah, the entirety of Homecoming and the first act of this, he's hamstrung by being, like, attached to all of these other children, basically, who are, I find them quite boring. I just want him to kind of break free of that into the future, become, you know, the photographer, the Bugle, take this story, become a bit, I want the narrow, focus for these films to be just on him.
We could, because he's 16 in this film, so imagine it's going to be a few years before we get the next Spider-Man film. He'll be at the very least in college. At that point, we might get a little bit more of a grown-up Spider-Man. I'm sure Tom Holland would like to stop playing a teenager as well. Yeah. Any other final thoughts?
Tom Holland's Spider-Man's best film is still Captain America Civil War.
I don't know, he was pretty good in Endgame.
I mean,
Infinity War.
Yeah, I'm still, I would say Civil War, that Munich fight, or Berlin fight. The Berlin fight. So during that moment with Jameson popping up on the screen, obviously we are told that Peter Parker's, you know, his identity is now out there. Beck's, like, final fuck you to Peter was basically telling the world and framing him for his murder.
And the attack on London.
There hasn't been much with identity, has there, in the whole of the MCU? We always knew...
They've kind of, like, just sort of, like, glossed over that. Starting out with Iron Man and Tony Stark at the end of the film just coming out and saying, I am Iron Man, kind of set the tone, and they haven't really addressed any sort of, like, identity secrets since then.
Yeah, I mean, Thor is Thor, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, Captain America is Steve Rogers, you know, everyone knows that.
Like, there's no disguising the Hulk, really.
So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with this. But obviously he's on Jameson's radar now, so if he does become, like, a photographer for the Bugle, who knows what's going to happen
Where my Spider-Man picks Spider-Man.
Yeah. underwhelming, but I think seeds have been sown for hopefully a brighter future.
I think the next film is going to be really, really good. With everything they've set up now, I think they have the potential, and if they don't do it, they are idiots.
Let's create it. Let's create that film now. I think we both agreed that we want him to be a photographer for the Bugle in the next one. Are we locking him into New York? No more forays up to Washington for like a spelling bee or a debate contest. No more jaunts around Europe.
New York-centric story.
Yeah.
I think even in the MCU in general, we're kind of due for a New York-centric story. We sort of started out with all of these characters who were based in New York, and they've started going like all over the place. And okay, fair enough, Iron Man can fly wherever. Captain America has this, huge moral compass trying to right wrongs and whatever. But yeah, I mean, Spider-Man belongs in New York.
Do you know what would blow my mind? The one thing that would blow my mind more than seeing Jameson in the post-credit sequence in Spider-Man 3. Think about it carefully, I reckon you'll get it.
I honestly have no idea.
The villain being Kingpin. Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk. It feels on brand for this Spider-Man, but it wouldn't have felt on brand for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because if you think about Keaton's, you said you like the kind of the guy down in his luck, the economic downturn, that's why he became a villain. Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk, it's very based in kind of reality, and it's very based in...
He wants to create a better world. Yeah. He just has very fucked up means of doing it.
Absolutely. And I think that it won't happen again, but we said Jameson would have happened. That
now you're just like sowing seeds. Like if we put it in a podcast, maybe it will happen.
Yeah, that ideology works with what they are seeing, with what they're telling us that they're happy to do with this Spider-Man. That ideology would have been out of place with Tobey Maguire's, which is more kid-aimed. It was very primary colours, Green Goblin, Doc Ock.
I could see a next film with like Wilson Fisk doing kind of Penguin thing, and leading the charge against Spider-Man and pretending that he's going to be doing for the greater good and all of this other stuff, but getting up to his usual tricks,
shenanigans.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
I'd watch the hell out of that. As much as Jameson, is the part J.K. Simmons was born to play, I feel like Vincent D'Onofrio, that was the part he was born to play. That is the end of Phase 3.
That is the end of Phase 3, officially. We're done with Phase 3. I think it's kind of a weird sort of end to Phase 3.
People talked about it being an epilogue.
I mean, there is quite a lot of like tribute to Tony Stark and Iron Man littered throughout. I mean, the film starts with an in memoriam to Cap, Black Widow, and Iron Man, to Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," which I have to admit I did for like a brief moment. I was kind of like, oh.
Comic-Con, they're going to tell us about Phase 4. While we're here, any kind of predictions, anything you want to throw out there, you want to get on the record, so when it happens, you can be like, yeah, I told you so.
See, I don't feel very confident in making predictions about the Marvel Universe, because I don't really, all I know is the MCU. So I don't really know, what the bank of villains, what the bank of, character arcs and relationships there are. I avidly watch much more knowledgeable people throw around names of other heroes and people they would like to see in the MCU, and I'm kind of interested in that. I mean, I don't want it now, but I will be quite excited when the X-Men make their debut into the MCU, because I know those characters.
And we cast them this morning.
On
episode 46, so go and check out our fan casting.
Yeah, and there is a tweet floating around, probably pinned to our Twitter profile, where you can cast your vote on which team you think is the better casting, and or who you would cast instead.
I think your best pick was Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Wolverine, which I particularly liked.
I really like your Jared Leto pick, and I can't, going on the way to the theater, I was just thinking, of all of the actors, why did I not put Jared Leto in there? I mean, I'm absolutely obsessed with this guy. And
I knew that would be your reaction as well when I did it. Oh, man. But yeah, it ticked every box. It did, didn't it? For Gambit, it ticked every box. Anyway, that's probably it.
I mean, that's all we have to say about Spider-Man. We could ramble on about a bunch of other stuff endlessly, as I'm sure you'll know if you're longtime fans of our show. So check us out on Twitter at GeekNerdPod. We've got some interesting stuff happening on our Patreon, patreon.com/geeknerd. And if anybody is still in the wasteland that is Facebook, we are there as well at facebook.com/thegeekly. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, some other places. Pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts at, that's where we are. So yeah, see ya.
See ya.